Kia ora koutou katoa, no mai hara mai ki Inside Netball ko Ravinder Hunia tōku ingoa. Fast5 Netball is back here in New Zealand and we are going to be breaking it all down for you today. 6 of the world's top nations will be competing in Christchurch this weekend. Here to talk with me about it today, former Fast5 captain Storm Purvis and of course Jenny Woods. Kia ora korua.
Kia ora.
Now look, Storm, I'm interested to pick your brain a little walk down memory lane when it comes to Fast5 Netball. Does it have a special little place for you in your netballing career?
It definitely does. The first thing that kind of stands out or springs to mind in any of my netball memories was our 2016 Fast5 team. That was the first year I was in the Ferns. We had a massive year with ANZ, Ferns camps. It just felt huge. And Fast5, as it still is like this thing at the end of the year. You can kind of let your hair out, play, have fun, play some netball with your best mates and not worry about it too much. And we went over to Melbourne when it was the 3 years in a row that it was in Melbourne that year, just wanting to send the year out with a laugh. And we absolutely smoked Australia in the final. I think we kept them scoreless in their power play back when it was, you picked a quarter that was going to be your power play. So that was huge. I think we won like 42-16. Or something, and we had lost to Australia during pool play during the weekend, and so to come out and win the way we did and just have so much fun doing it. Maria Falau was still in the side then. We had Jamie Hume, Maya Wilson, Tapaya Selby-Rickett, Gina Crampton, 4 of my best friends out there on court. It's just so much fun, so much fun. I'd love to still be playing.
Well, so much fun to commentate too, because I went across to those games and I was with Sherelle McMahon and all those, big names of Australian netball, and I thought, and when you guys did what you did, I just thought, this is fantastic. It was tremendous. But I do think that the New Zealand organisation is better. I think we get the music right, we get, everyone from Invercargill comes for a start. I'm sure they'll all be there this weekend.
Bit easier in Christchurch and Spark.
But there's just the vibe, it's just infectious.
Well, we haven't had a Fast5 tournament since 2018, is it? That seems like impossible. I can't believe it's been that long ago. When you do think back to your days on the court, Storm, is there anything that stands out for you in terms of a solid memory that you're like, yeah, I still think about that?
Honestly, yeah, keeping Australia scoreless in their power play quarter, because they were just so confident. But it wasn't just that.
Who was in that Australian side, by the way?
Oh gosh, Kate Maloney was captain. Susan Pettit.
Yes, that's right. It was too.
Gretel Tippett, who was actually great. Oh gosh, Jenny, can you remember?
No, I mean, all my years at Melbourne.
Thwaites around then, I think.
Thwaites was in the team, and not Steph Wood, the other redhead.
Phillip,
oh my gosh, terrible. Yes.
Tegan Phillip.
Tegan
yes.
Phillip.
Tegan Phillip.
Yeah. Who was a handy little shooter.
Yes. But it was just, I don't know, we had a really cool culture. We had a theme around sort of, it was almost like Māori warriors or wahine toa, and we really bought into that. And being in Melbourne, there just felt like there were so many Kiwis in the crowd. I had my family in the crowd, my Australian cousins in the crowd. Don't know who they were going for, but they sure showed
Coached
them.
by, who was coaching you?
Kenny Wills.
Ah, yes, of course.
Was our head coach, and Mary Jane Aroa, I'm pretty sure. Although 2017, I was still in the team the following year, and we did very badly that year, and so players and coaches may get a little bit muddled there. Sorry, my memory's not good.
It was a while ago. You'd be forgiven.
Yes. But it's just so much fun. There's no other word that comes to mind more than fun when it comes to Fast5.
There was a lot of concern before it started, wasn't it, about, we trying to make this more like basketball? Is it going to be this? Is it going to be that? And I don't think really any of those fears came to pass because it's been missed. I mean, it really has been missed. And I think they didn't do it in 2019 because I think, one theory I heard was that the logic is that most people who would save up to go to wherever the Fast5 is would be doing that to go to the World Cup.
Right.
And so, you haven't got enough money to do all that. And of course then there was COVID. And so, when this announcement came that it was coming back, and I think it's the next 6 years.
Is it 6? Because they were doing it in sort of 3-year chunks.
That's right.
I mean, no one really came forward after Melbourne, is kind of what I remember.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
oh, so they're doing 6 years?
Well, my understanding is it's 3 here and 3 in Australia. I may have made that next bit up. Certainly it's 3 years here.
Great, yeah.
Well, how important is the Fast 5 tournament? We don't take any internationals lightly, but we also know that in the Fast 5 tournaments, we see a lot of players that we don't usually see on the international stage, either them emerging or maybe dropped out of the top squads, you know, trying to make a stamp for themselves in the Fast 5. How imperative is it, when we know everything that's coming up next year, for players to perform well at Fast 5?
I don't know, I kind of have arguments with myself in my head around this, especially these days. I mean, when it was first created back in the day, everyone took their top sides. You know, like it was your starting 7 would usually be similar to your starting 5 for your country, whereas over the last sort of 3 or 4 years that hasn't really been the case, or 3 or 4 series I should say. So I think New Zealand in particular still use it as a way, and actually looking at a few of the other teams, they're using it as a way to give young players international experience in a less intense environment. But for players maybe that are trying to work their way back into the sport, I'm not so sure that they can really say this is an opportunity for them, just because the game is so different. I would more treat it as a way just to go out there and fall back in love with netball, maybe, and focus on having fun and let that kind of spill over into your ANZ season or whatever else you're doing to try and get back in there. I'm not sure if you have an outstanding Fast 5 tournament that they're going to be like, wow, we've got to put it back in the Ferns. I don't think.
Well, I wonder if you ask Tiana Maturo or Sam Winders how they feel about this, you know, being in this squad, because I'm sure that, well, for a start, you want to be seen, don't you? You want to get back in front of the selectors' eyes, particularly perhaps Maturo. I think Georgia Heffernan's another one. Aaliyah Dunn is another one. They're all in this New Zealand team. And, you know, look, we were talking about Australia before, and I remember back to the beginning of Fast 5 when it was, 2012 or so. And I mean, I remember Australia sort of were a bit snooty about it. I mean, they didn't take it particularly seriously. They didn't really even send any of their top-notch players. But as it got on, they thought, oh, okay, yes, I think we do care about this. But then, you know, interestingly enough, in this year's lineups, you know, I looked at the England lineup. There's not a name I recognise.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're taking another totally different approach.
Well, let's take a look at that a little bit more in depth. We've brought up the New Zealand team, and you've mentioned a few players. Other players in that mix: Taylor Earl, Kimi Orapoi of Silver Ferns, Christiana Manua, who I know a lot of people are excited to see in defence, Kate Burley, she's had a good spell with the Steel, Ali Timu's back from Silver Ferns duty, and Phil Devui is also in the mix as well. What do we think about that in terms of combinations? Because there's some pretty fiery players in that lineup.
Well, the combination that stands out straight away for me is Dunn and Maturo. It's going to be great to see them out there. Dunn has played Fast 5 before. She was fantastic in the last, what must have been 2018, was it? Yeah. In that last series, probably our best long-range shooter. For me, Georgia Heffernan is going to be someone to keep an eye on, because when she's got her eye in, we've seen it from time to time with the Steel, even the NZA side, that she is able to shoot from distance. And if she's got her eye in from the get-go, she's a player that could be a bit of a weapon for us in that 2 and 3 point shot distance. So I'm excited about the shooters. Phil Devui is another one who's not afraid to put the shot up. So we've got shooters in there that if they can get their eye in, they've got the confidence at least to go to the post. The defence is exciting. Kate Burley, I love watching her play. I think Fast 5 will absolutely suit her. She'll go out flying. She'll jump when the ball's being thrown from, you know, down the other end of the court. She will have a ball out there. So both ends I'm excited about, and of course we've got speedy middies. Sam Winders has played a lot of Fast 5. She was in that 2016 team that I remember so fondly, and she was great. And you're right, Jen, she's someone who I think, what I was saying before about just falling back in love with the game and just having a chance to go out there and have some fun, I think that should be her approach heading into this.
And I wonder if that is what she's doing. You know, for the ANZ, she's moving down to the Steel. You know, that's a huge move after so long. Well, her whole career with the Magic. But the ones that I'm interested in, interested in all of those, but also in Australia, like a couple of their players, Sophie Garvin and Sophie Dwyer, and I'm thinking, see now, Garvin to me was almost the the star really of that Constellation Cup, along with Jo Weston. She just came in and dealt to us really in that shooting circle. Also, Kelsey Brown. Tilly McDonnell is another one. She's a young player, plays for the Giants. I think she and Christiana Manua might have, interesting things to say to each other.
Sophie Dwyer most definitely will.
Yeah, yeah. So, there's lots to look forward to there. And the other thing that I've been interested with the Australians, of course, is what have they had now? 3, 4, 5 years of the super shot, 2 points. They should have that down pat. And now, of course, that the power play has changed to just the last 90 seconds of each quarter. So, and I guess there'll be a nice hooter or something, somebody ringing a bell. And that's what they can go to town on, all that sort of stuff that people can get into. So it'll be good.
The Australian shooters do look good. I'm a bit nervous about their shooting. Georgie Hodges, who Thunderbirds, I think, she's fantastic, and she's proven to be that real impact player for when they do have their last 5 minutes of super shots in Suncorp. So they're going to know, this change of rules with the last 90 seconds, that changes your approach to the game as well, because it's not just one quarter you're focusing on where your game plan is going to change for 6 minutes. It's now every last 90 seconds of the quarter where you just have to adapt really quickly. And in Australia, you're right, they have that advantage, I guess, having played that way in Suncorp for the last few years.
Yeah, it's absolutely their format, isn't it? Just a condensed version of...
So it'll be interesting to see how they do it, don't they? Because I think I'm right. You've got to go to do your substitutions. You're out there, the 5 of you, and you've got to run off. You can run off any time, but you've got to go through the box.
Through a box and tag a player before they can come on.
Yeah, so that could be quite congested if you're... Well, it depends who you've got
when
out
you're
there,
approaching that last 90 seconds.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, gosh, the umpires will have to have their wits about them. But it's there is just lots of little facets to this game, and the use it rule, where you've got to keep going in one direction.
Love the use it rule.
Yes. Well, remember then they didn't have it, and teams would be just sticking around.
Throwing the ball around.
Who was the master of doing that? Was Malawi. They play in their 7-a-side netball. They do the same thing.
Yes, they do.
To be honest, they just keep the ball and go side to side. And it used to be so frustrating because it would be your power play. And they just wouldn't forward the ball. So the use it rule was great most of the time, sometimes frustrating because you'd be yelling at an umpire, like, come on, yell it out, because it's obviously subjective. So the umpires, they haven't umpired Fast 5 in a while either, so it's going to take them a while to get back into the groove of it.
Yeah. Maybe that's a reason why they've brought in that 90-second at the end of the quarters type situation.
Maybe.
But looking at it, it definitely does fit Australia's style of play. As soon as you said Georgie Hodges, my ears went boop, because she is not to be messed with. I have really admired watching her in the Thunderbirds and what she was able to do, her and Lenise Potgieter, that combination. I thought they were sublime. Let's take a little bit more of a look at Australia, because as we know, they're in a test series against England at the moment. So, but looking at the side, they seem to still be, in pretty good strength in terms of their lineup. I thought Garbin was an interesting selection because I don't see her as a long-range shooter. So I was thinking, is she there for the rebounds, or does she have the secret long shot skill that we may have not seen yet?
Sometimes a good game plan, and it's the same in traditional netball, is to send it into your goal shoot, who's the target under the post, and then play it out to a shooter who's prepared to shoot it from range. And that can be really hard to defend, because you're like, oh, do I defend the big bird under the post here, or do I just worry about keeping everyone else away? So that's not a bad game plan, I guess, having someone like Garbin, and we know she's a fantastic rebounder. But is she the only one who's in the side from the English series at the moment?
Sophie Dwyer.
And Dwyer, yes. But I mean, Garbin probably, prior to the Con Cup, was not really expected to be the mainstay superstar goal shoot that she's kind of been for a while, and she's probably going to be exhausted heading into Fast 5. And it's tough. Fast 5 is really, really tough. It's shorter, yes, but it's faster and there's less of you on court, so you have to do more work all the time. I'd be interested to see how much she is actually used.
Yeah. Well, there's so much that's interesting. I was looking before at Kelsey Brown, and I was reading some notes about the comparison between Kelsey Brown and Peta Toiava. how they're very similar players, lots of change of directions, quite short, low to the ground, and I thought that's interesting comparison. Also, I noticed Tara Hinchliffe, who now, well, she was at Firebirds for years, and she's now, I think, gone to the Lightning, to join up with her identical twin. And I thought, wow, that's nice. She can have a little bit of a chat to Georgia Heffernan about, what's it like.
And she will recombine with Kim Jenner. And I really enjoyed their combination when it first came on the scene at the Firebirds. I thought they were young and fun, and it's great to see Kim Jenner have another shot because she kind of made that Australian squad and has found herself on the outer as well. So, yeah, I just hope they both reunite and have some fun. They're a fun defensive partnership to watch.
Yeah, scared, not scared, Australia. On that front, talking about the Australian-England series, let's look at Team England, who, when we looked at the paper, went, who the heck are these girls?
Yes, you tell me, who are they?
And, you get it because they're in the middle of a series, but then I saw, a couple of the Australians coming over. I would have suspected, with the English team being right over the Tasman, that perhaps some of those players would come over. Apparently not. What do we make of, and you did mention it before, that it's an absolutely new look team and perhaps it's just that cultivation of new talent?
Yeah, my brain is like, say something, because I look at, they're just names to me. I don't really know anything about them. I did read somewhere that they're quite mid-court heavy, something like 4 centres, which is interesting. I wonder if they're trying to mould some new goal attacks because there's not a whole lot of goal attacks in England netball in depth at the moment. And we've seen the same England 12 or I guess 15 players kind of rotated for what feels like forever now.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see some of these new faces, and that's pretty much all I can say.
Yeah, and I will go along a similar line actually, Storm. I mean, I think that England have been copping a bit of flack. They've lost the series to Australia, and a little bit of chit chat about how long do we keep playing these players. I mean, I think Ebony Beckford-Chambers and Stacey Francis-Bayman, they've gone and they've moved on, but there was some discussion that perhaps they should have gone earlier. Jo Harton, a bit of chat about her. Why was she even there? I mean, I think to be fair to Jo, no one is suggesting she's finished, but she's certainly carrying an injury. Beth Cobden didn't even, take the court, has been sent back to England, and I think a few people were saying, surely there are other players that, we could have been, we as in the English could have been using. Well, here they all come because they're coming to the Fast 5. So, look, good luck to them. But yes, it'll be a tough work for the commentators working.
Exactly. Those are usually probably one of the teams you don't have to worry about,
That's right. I know these people.
How rude.
No, not this time, yes.
At least there's only 5 of them.
That's
all
true.
at one time.
Yeah. So it's the rolling subs you have to worry about.
Yeah, true.
But on that note, when you talk about, their version of their fossils going out, it's an exciting time for England netball, especially with a World Cup around the corner. Talking about that Aussie-England series again, they've got a new goalkeeper in their mix who has been keeping Jiva Mentor on the bench. For Doju, we've been talking about her. She's had some fantastic deflections and gains and things, so that's exciting to see. Eleanor Caldwell, who we were talking about off camera as well, another bright spark for England. So it's actually nice to see the guard being passed.
Well, it's not surprising that they have depth, right? I mean, they're a massive country. We know they put a lot of funding into netball. It's a huge sport over there. So it is exciting to see these new players come out and perform really well. Fran Williams, who's been in and around the English side for a while now in goal defence, I thought she was fantastic in that first game. And they're kind of playing like they're just so excited to be out there and they want to go, look at me, I can do this, I can do that, I'm fresh, I'm new, I'm young. And that's exciting to see,
Yeah, I still think there'll be a degree of disappointment over what happened at the Commonwealth Games. I mean, I still can't believe that they ended up where they did. So, I guess a lot of pressure on Jess Thirlby. I mean, she's not involved in this Fast 5, but there will be a lot of pressure on her, of course, quad series in January, looking ahead again to the World Cup. But, I think, you mentioned Fadoju, I think people in Birmingham were talking to me about, you've got to see this kid, she's fantastic. And yeah, she is.
Yeah, she is. Exciting player of the future. Let's quickly now take a look at the rest. A team that I'm very excited to to see at this competition is Uganda. It's their first Fast 5 tournament. They've been doing, slowly building over the years and proving their worth on the netball court. We would traditionally, of course, off camera we did say, see Malawi in this space, not to be this year, but Uganda with Praskovia Peace in the mix as well. How cool is it to see Uganda there for the first time?
Oh, it'll be great to see them, or see their spin, I guess, on Fast 5 netball. I wonder if they've played any Fast 5 locally, or whether they're, what they're doing behind the scenes to get themselves ready to play it, because it is different. And a lot of these nations, New Zealand in particular, have had, they've won 7 of the past however many it's been. And they've had a lot of time to develop game plans and understand how it works. And you can say that about most of the nations. For Uganda, they're coming in and they're just, going to show us what they've got. I haven't seen Praskovia put up a long shot before. Maybe she has, I'm not sure. And I don't know many of the other players. But it's cool to see a new style of netball, and if they bring this sort of African flair in and what that looks like, I'm hoping they put on a real show.
And I'm sure they will, because I think essentially looking at this side, they're virtually, because whatever you had at the Commonwealth Games, and they've just dropped a few off. So these players, I think they almost sort of play a form of Fast 5 anyway in their traditional form of netball. And I tell you what, the shooter to watch, yes, Praskovia Peace, but more so Mary Cholok. Now, she's even taller. She's, I think, over 2 metres, and she was just a star in Birmingham. And I mean, the one thing that was interesting about Uganda was that from memory, they were the one, Jamaica also, obviously, they improved their ranking. They went up, and that's hence why they're here, because I think they must have nudged Malawi out of that 6th spot. But, if I could digress, part of me thinks Malawi should be there, because I think Jamaica should have been kicked out. If you can't see through your responsibilities to a fellow test nation and come down for a test series in New Zealand, I don't think you should be coming. And I know it's World Netball as opposed to Netball New Zealand, but as far as I can see, I haven't seen any punishment or anything against Jamaica so far. I hope I'm wrong, but I can see that what's going to happen. And in fact, it was Uganda who then has recently just been up in the UK on a northern tour. They turned up with insufficient numbers. So those teams couldn't be, the tests against, I think, was it Ireland and England, couldn't be registered or recognised as proper tests. And that's the sort of thing that is going to happen if we let countries get away, she says, but it really disheartens me, because netball is trying so hard to be professional and look as though it's on top of its game, and then stuff like this happens and you wonder why you can't attract sponsorship, and you wonder why people think you're a bit, huckery.
Yeah.
Well, huckery's a wrong bad word. But
I know what you're saying. And off that, it's actually very disappointing to not have Malawi play anyway, because they are so entertaining. We saw them in Birmingham. They're dancing, they're having fun, they work the crowd. And they're always one of the stars of Fast 5. Not necessarily because of their performances on court, but they're just entertaining. They're fun to watch. They really play into the spirit of the game, and a little bit of gamesmanship as well, which is fine. We talked about them with the use it rule. But it's a shame that the fans and the crowd in Christchurch aren't going to get to see their personalities out on court.
Well, and it's the fans that I'm feeling sorry for, who shelled out hard-won money for those tests in Hamilton that never happened.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so true. It's a good point that you bring up, and the reality of, we know the times of COVID and things like that has affected even Netball New Zealand, and I mean look at Netball Australia and their money effects. But you're right. When do we say, okay, but this is the line and we have to draw it, because for our sport to move forward, we all have to keep to a certain standard, whether you are at the top of the money chain or not, right? Like, in order for our sport to move forward. In saying that, they are here. I saw Jamaica had a porphyry at the airport welcoming them in, so that's something we won't have to worry about so far.
Here.
So far, they are here. And named on that list, Romelda Aiken-George, who of course was here for that Jamaica test, didn't take to the court. So are we thinking that she's going to take the court this time around?
I hope so.
Yeah.
She better. Otherwise, why is she here?
Yeah.
People angry again.
Well, she'd virtually just given birth
I know.
last time.
Well, she looked amazing.
She did look
right?
amazing.
She would have
Yes.
definitely taken the court. That'll be great to see Jamaica again, another side, a few names that, you recognise, and Romelda obviously leading the way there. It'd be great to see her back out on court and see what she can do. I haven't seen much of her long range shooting, but that's okay. It's not the end of the world. She'll give it a go.
I've seen her take a couple of super shots, actually.
There you go.
Well, I think
during
a couple of the
season.
other shooters who are coming too, Giselle, I always have trouble with that name. Giselle Allison. I'll just call it Allison.
I can't wait for it in commentary, Jenny.
And she and Amanda Pinckney, who I think is still one of the ones who's actually still based in Jamaica, and I think has made it clear that she would actually quite like, I think she wants as much profile as possible, and good on her, because she wants a contract. And you can see how these players' minds work. You want to come to these competitions so you can be seen and picked up by either those in Australia or the UK, or to a lesser degree in New Zealand, because we have a much tighter rule. And then of course there's South Africa, but the South Africans have always been, I think they've always come, but they've always been a more solid, and when I mean solid, just middle of the road team. Haven't pulled out any surprises. And of course then there's the three men's team.
Yeah, that's true too, actually. That's a great reminder that our men's teams will be involved in that as well. And when I think of men playing Fast 5, I just think of the glory that I see when playing inside netball and what the men bring to the table when playing indoor netball. Indoor netball, whānau, is 6-a-side, if you don't know. Nets all around, the game never stops.
And you can shoot from outside the circle.
And you can shoot from outside the circle and score 2 points as opposed to 1 inside the circle. So I think this game would be, fit them very, very well. And it's so cool to see that it's not the mixed, it's not the this, it's men's netball.
Yep, I like that too, I must admit. I see the other night, I think England played Australia men's in their first, and big win to Australia. But, that's all right. I did like the name of the English team, the English Thorns.
Is it?
That's great. That's good.
Very creative.
Yes.
Well, whānau, that's not only us for this week, but that is us for 2022. So thank you so much for tuning in both here and on our digital platforms. We've had some great viewing numbers and some great feedback from you all too. So to end the year, please sit back, relax, enjoy the Fast 5 Carnival that it will be live from Christchurch. Of course, our top 6 world nations will be on display for your enjoyment. All the action, as always, live on Sky Sport. Meri kirihimete me ngā mihi mo te tau hou. Stay safe over the Christmas holidays and we'll see you in 2023. Hei kōnā mai.